That's where the clarity.
If you don't trust them, let them go. Put the people you trust.
So the intelligence, if there's an intelligence report, it should come to the long room.
It should come there.
Inside the port where you're from COs, your bill of lading,
all those
yes,
documents.
your import papers and everything are processed, rather than waiting outside the gate with another so-called quote-unquote intelligence report and hijacking your containers. So technically, you're spending 2 weeks.
Exactly.
More.
Exactly. And you have borrowed money from the banks to finance this. You have your customers to supply some, because sometimes most of these things are even raw materials. So we have
and they could go bad the longer you keep them in the container.
Exactly. So these issues are still there. Appropriation is important, but the totality of the policy environment and the behavior of institutions is also very key. Now, the president in his presentation also alluded to the fact that the government doesn't have the finances to fix all of these things. And there's a need to bring the private sector on board.
Are you happy with that?
Of course, it is good. It is good because the private sector has a major role to play in this space. The total budget is 8.6 trillion. This economy is 100 trillion and growing. That's just about 8% of the GDP.
So we have what
impact can it make? You cannot make any material impact unless you bring in private sector capital, whether from within the economy or from outside the economy. We need it so badly.
So borrowing is one thing, and we're going to borrow again in 2018. We're borrowing our way, and we're spending our way. But again, the private sector is not just going to bring. There's no free money anywhere. So let's get that straight. Whichever partnership, whatever relationship, whichever way is skewed or structured, there's no free money from the private sector to the government side.
Yes.
So there's a cost of money someone somewhere is bearing the cost.
Somebody has to bear the
cost.
Yeah.
So what would the private sector, your members, be looking forward to partner with the government as far as this budget is concerned?
Now, the private sector has a major role to play in fixing infrastructure, because infrastructure is perhaps the major or the biggest shortcoming that we have today, because of its effects on productivity, on competitiveness, and of even internal integration of the economy. We often talk about the fact that the economy is a large economy. Yes, but you cannot get the best value from the economy unless internally we are also properly integrated. And for you to properly integrate, you need to have transportation. You need roads, you need railways, you need waterways, you need all of that. And of course, you need power. So we need to mobilize private sector capital from the policy angle. First of all, look at the cost of funds today. Can you fund any infrastructure with an interest rate that you have in the commercial banks today? No. It's not possible. When you are dealing with interest rate of 25%, 30%, you can't use that to fund infrastructure. So that has already created an inclusiveness problem for domestic investors, because you can't use that kind of money to fund any long-term project. So we need to deal with the issue of cost of fund. That is very critical to mobilizing domestic investors to be part of this process. Then we also need to design policies, because it is policies that shape the behavior of economic actors. Policies and institutions. Those are the things that shape the behavior of economic players in any economy. If you don't get it right with the policies, if you don't get it right with the institutions, there will be no proper response from the economic players. So we need to get our tax policy right. Tax policy in a way to incentivize the flow of investment to fix some of this infrastructure and other gaps that we have in the economy.
There are concerns out there about revenue shortfalls and how to close to close the gap. Some of our viewers are sending. What's your view on that? And that was also raised anyway by Moody's in the downgrades that came in on Wednesday on Nigeria, that we are yet able to really fix, put our fingers on revenue shortfall.
Well, revenue shortfall, I mean, listening to the president in his address to the National Assembly, you notice that the big issue he raised concerning revenue shortfall has to do with independent revenue. It said as at September, October, there was a shortfall of over 70%.
Yeah, that's what the president said.
Yes.
Yes.
And this has to do with agencies of government that are revenue generating, that are not remitting to the treasury of government. The same issue was raised by the Senate president. So we need to bring some discipline into the process.
We need to bring some discipline into the parastatals, to be specific.
Exactly.
Civil service.
Exactly.
Let's call it spade a spade.
Yes, we need to bring some discipline. If you are supposed to remit, you should remit. Look at the example of what happened in JAMB. Where over the years,
amazing.
Yes,
5 million naira.
51 million to almost 5 or 50 billion that has been declared. You can see the disparity. And you can replicate that in many of the key revenue generating institutions.
Yeah, instead of 5 billion, they bring about 15 million naira in. A very interesting figure, where money goes in this country.
Of course.
So for over a decade.
Of course, of course. And you can replicate that in many other parastatals.
So if we look at WAEC, for example, you look at other institutions, that's education. If so much money is not to be found in education, what about oil and gas?
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay, so the country is bleeding so much. So you think anti-corruption is good. It's good to chase those. But again, you think there's a bigger work to be done within the mechanism of governance.
There's a bigger work to be done. And again, in this revenue drive, there's too much pressure on the formal sector of the economy. Those of us in the formal sector of the economy, the pressure, the heat is too much.
For those of us who are blue-collar, white-collar.
Yes. Because you have a barrage of demands from FRS, from the states, from the local governments, different kinds of taxes, causing so much distraction. You know, you have to, it is too much. So we need to also re-examine this. This economy is over 50% informal. What do we have, what framework do we have to make sure that there's equity in this tax drive? It is people that have annual returns, that have audited accounts, that have very nice offices. Those are the people that are facing the heat. What of the other aspects of the economy?
Yeah, the one-man business, the roadside economy.
Yes, even some of these big markets that we see, the turnover in those markets are in billions of naira. But you don't have any audited accounts. We don't have any office that you can go to.
We need to go down there. We need to go down there. We have a little one not too far from us here. Maybe we've got to start from there. Thank you very much for coming. We appreciate that. And the traffic out there is also one of the problems. Muda Yusuf is the Director General at the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Hope you benefited from that conversation. Let's come back and finish up on the market side of the street.